regular meeting minutes from the month of January before you. Are there any modifications, corrections that need to be made to those minutes? Hearing none, those minutes stand as well. That brings us to public comment. Mr. Chapman, sign up for public comment.
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, moving right along. All right, that brings us to reports. So we'll begin with Dr. Woody. I'll give the floor to you.
Thank you. On facilities, I wanted to give you an update on the Andrews Middle School roof. They had some weather days that they had accumulated, so the finalization of that project is going to be the middle to the end of February. And also following up with you about the getting some information on the property across from Murphy High School. There has an RFQ, request for qualifications, gone out. It's on our website, and that will be open until February 14th. You also have your personnel, and that is all of my report tonight.
Okay. You've heard Dr. Woody's report as presented. Do I have a motion and a second to approve his report?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mr. Tatham. Who was the second? Okay, Mr. Murphy. Mr. Tatham, discussion?
Just one thing, Madam Chair. Dr. Woody, I've got a question. This is general, it's not specific to anything in your report, but just big picture, I guess this is a good time to ask. When I think of recruitment and retention for a county and where we're at with that, I thought of a few things. Do we currently do exit interviews for former employees? And if not, can we consider adding that so we can kind of get an idea of, like, if we lose employees, we kind of have a better understanding of why.
Okay.
And the other thing I'd like to ask is, some of the positions that we've been trying to get, we've had a real hard time. I think, like for the SROs, we've had listening for SROs since 2023. Have we had anybody that's reached out to us and said or applied to be an SRO?
Yes, we have, and we've had some interviews
Okay.
on some of those, but they, for various reasons, were not hired. Some of them.
Okay. So we're at least getting people that are.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That was it. I was just wondering, like, what can we do to improve our recruitment of employees and try to keep them. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Murphy, any discussion? Fellow board members, discussion? Mr. Chapman, roll call vote, please.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Ellis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews? Aye. Mr. Tatham?
Aye.
Mrs. Gaddis?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Coleman? Mrs. Baker?
Aye. All right, next item on the agenda will be the finance officer's report. I will yield the floor again to Dr. Woody to present on behalf of Ms. Hatz.
Thank you. In your package, you have a draft timeline for completion of budget. You'll notice there's some TBDs, times to be determined, that will be on there. The board chair, Ms. Raper, will be working to determine some of those as we move forward through the budget process. And that was all that Mrs. Harris had for her report.
Okay. You've heard the finance officer's report. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the report as presented?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Tatham, do I have a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Tatham, discussion?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Coleman, discussion? Okay. Fellow board members, discussion? Okay, all right. All right, if you approve this vote, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed by the same sign? Great, moving right along. All right, no, actually board chairs. Okay, I have several things I wanted to talk about. Positive things from our students, from our schools, from our staff from this past month. Let me get to my notes. This month is CTE, Career Technical Education Month. We have several different career pathways and programs that are available to students. Ms. Hayes and Ms. Anderson do a wonderful job with that program, working with our schools, working with our students between middle school and high school, working with community partners for internships. Ms. Anderson told me yesterday that currently they have 27 student internships with different community partners, one of which being an Andrews High School student who's interning with the Scouts. So they are covering basketball games, is my understanding. She also told me that they have several students who are working underpaid internships. I don't think people understand how big of a deal this is. That is an enormous opportunity for our students, not only to have an internship with an organization within the community, but then to be paid. So you're gaining all the experience and knowledge that you can through an internship, and then you're getting paid for it. That just doesn't happen all over the place, and I'm so thankful and grateful for all the work that they put into this program, that they pour into our students, they pour into our community, and thankful and grateful for those partners in the community who are willing to work with our students. We appreciate you. I also know that yesterday out at Tri-County Early College and School of Innovation, they had 8th grade students from the county that came. Was it yesterday and today? Okay, so they hosted all of our 8th grade students in the county offering tours, so they get to come out to the campus, and these tours are led by their peers. Students who come from every community in our county who would now attend the early college or participate in programs at the School of Innovation. So they got to come around, they got to see about the different programs, meet different students, and see what different teachers offer there, look at that campus, and potentially become students there. So thank you, Mr. Forrester and your staff for putting that together. Yes, and Ms. Hayes and Ms. Anderson, I know that's a lot of legwork to get those students transported there, to get those tours set up, to make sure that things flow as easily as possible. Sometimes that's easier said than done. And then I also wanted to highlight that Tri-County Early College has earned their accreditation from Cognitive Org, and it's based on a commitment to prepare our students to succeed and invest in equipping them with skills, knowledge, and inspiration to thrive in an ever-changing world. So congratulations, Tri-County Early College and your staff. I know there's a lot of work to get those accomplished. I think our other high schools are in the process of that right now. And so as I'm made aware of them reaching their accreditation, I will talk about them as well. This month, we will celebrate SRO Appreciation Day. It's actually February the 15th. And, I think it goes without saying that we are thankful for our SROs and the role that they play in our school, not only ensuring staff and student safety, but building positive relationships with our students. I just think that's so important. If we can go ahead and foster that relationship and build that relationship within the school with our SROs, to have a positive interaction, perhaps it can propel some things later in life. Who knows? But so thank you, SROs. This week is School Counselor Week. What can I say about them? They work so hard inside their school hours, outside of their school hours, to make sure that our students receive the support that they need to be successful in the classroom. And, the role is vital within the school. They often have to wear many hats as well as our other staff. So thank you, counselors. I noticed today, some of my friends who have children in school that are still young, and today is the 100th day of school. We're on the downhill slide. We can do it. It was really cute to see the parents that had posted little pictures of how their kids had celebrated 100 days of school. Of course, it's not necessarily the same in every school. They might have a different activity that they highlight. I always enjoy seeing those things. I can't wait to see more. I can't wait to see schools highlight that, because I know they will on their Facebook page. With that being said, that concludes my report. Now we can move on to old business. So, under old business, we have to draft a proposal for the County Commission Board for consideration. Previously, we've just come out of a work session where we've discussed some things, recommendations that potentially we could present to them. So, before any discussion begins on this, before we move forward on anything else, I just want to say, this is a draft proposal for county commissioner consideration. If the county commission agrees with the draft capital proposal as approved by the Cherokee County Board of Education, then the Board of Education will come back and fill all statutory requirements before final approval. Again, this is a draft for consideration, okay? We are not making a final decision on anything tonight. This is to get the process started. So, I'll open the floor up for some discussion now. Don't everybody take your hands.
Make a motion to vote on the different plan.
How does that, okay.
You need to make a motion to vote on a specific plan.
Make a
Okay,
motion to vote on my plan, ready to get the.
let's go back to the proposal. If you'll title it like the proposal is, since we have that, and we worked on that, in the work session. Right, Danny? I mean, with that, do you have any feel?
To make a motion to vote on proposal B, Mr. Coleman, Mr. Catlard, Board of Education.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor.
Thank you.
Second by Mr. Ellis. Okay. Okay. Mr. Coleman, discussion? Mr. Ellis, discussion? Fellow board members, discussion?
Mr. Coleman, just for clarification, for the draft proposal, it does not specify education. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, I assume we need to roll call vote this, Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
Okay, roll call vote, Mr. Chapman, please.
Mr. Tatum, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gaddis? Mr. Murphy?
No, because I'm not sit all.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Ellis?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Nay.
Mrs. Schrader?
Nay.
The vote is 4 in favor, 3 opposed.
Okay. All right.
Can we submit another vote or?
I don't see what, I mean, it's up to the board.
I don't know how you can vote for two.
Okay.
You might technically could and say we took motions on this and that both these approved, or all three approved, but then you're in the same vote.
Yeah, I was just confused. I thought we would vote for a specific plan and whichever plan had the most votes, that would be the one that would be submitted. That was my
confused too.
There we go.
Okay, so now what do we do?
Well, a motion's been made and seconded, and there's been a vote, and it has been approved. So you would have to make a motion to, I guess, override that one, and it would have to be a majority of the board to agree to override it, to go back and readdress the issue. I think. Do you agree with that?
That's,
That sounds
that's
right.
what it would have to be, you would have to have a motion second.
But
I think it's already been.
Gaddis realized what she voted for, because it sounds like she was confused.
Ms. Gaddis,
Explain to me exactly what this was.
this was Mr. Coleman's proposal B from our work session, where we would, combine basically pre-K 8th grade, location not to be determined yet, to move forward in that direction. That was what the motion was for Mr.
I
Owens.
didn't hear all of it.
Okay. Okay, well then, would that change, does that change your vote? I don't know how to do.
Yes, because I was of the mindset that we were going to decide on a plan before we did this.
Yeah, that's what we were doing, so, okay, I need some guidance.
She could rescind her vote. Could she not?
I see, I think you're the.
Yeah, you're right.
Vote stands.
You're right, the vote would stand and it would move forward unless someone votes to change and bring that one up. It would stand right now.
I don't see why we couldn't do some type of motion. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm comfortable moving forward with the plan that was put in accidentally.
So how about make a motion to,
Well, he could rescind the motion, is that?
Mr. Coleman has to do that.
Yes.
Nothing to that.
3 years, I like that. Being that Mr. Gaddis was going to, agree to that. I don't necessarily agree to it, but I will rescind it and do the motion again if I need to.
Okay, so you're saying you're gonna, the motion doesn't exist. Everybody's in agreement with that, there's no contention to that, and make the motion again.
I make a motion to vote on proposal B, sponsored by myself, District at-large Board of Education.
Second.
Who said?
Mr. Ellis. Okay, Ms. Gaddis, the motion was rescinded. Mr. Coleman has now, put his motion back out there for proposal B, which is his plan, pre-K, 8th grade, that's the plan that we submit for recommendation to the commission board. So that is what we're voting on now. All right, Mr. Coleman, again, discussion.
I would, this time I will,
Okay.
for a second. Again, to reiterate to everyone in the room, as well as listening, and everyone who was here for our meeting before this, like Ms. Raker said, it is a plan that we submit to the county commissioners to basically start the next phase of the process. They have asked for one, and I do ask that it may be the most thorough, or whatever, however you want to put that. But other than that, I think I've spoke about it plenty of times. And it would be without the specific piece of property.
So land to be determined.
Yeah.
Okay, or location, excuse me, location to be determined. Okay, okay. Mr. Ellis?
All I'll say is, in the election before last, I feel like the citizens of Cherokee County spoke, and they did not want consolidated high school. There was 4 spots that were available. Those spots were pro and against consolidation, and 3 of those spots were won by anti that plan high school. So to me, that tells me that 75% of the population said they don't want a consolidated high school. So this, to me, is the best plan as the next part. The first part should be this plan. I realize Murphy High School needs a new school. You move Murphy Middle out of their, into this new school. You move Murphy High School into their school, and you tear down their school and you build them a building. You don't have to do all the infrastructure. You don't have to build a new football stadium or anything like that. And it keeps all of the communities together. It doesn't destroy Andrews. It doesn't destroy Murphy in any way. It actually makes Murphy a better place because of the traffic that it will free up in the afternoons. And it doesn't affect Hiawassee Dam in a bad way. I just think that this is absolutely the best plan for the first part.
All right, fellow board members, discussion.
I would just like to say, if there's anyone confused on why I would offer up a plan myself and vote for another plan, it's because that whether my plan, Jason's plan, Steve's plan goes forward, I think the common thing is what we need to do is address not only some consolidation, but also the facilities at Murphy Elementary and Murphy High School. It just depends on the order we're doing it in. And basically, Steve's just proposing a different order to do it in than Jason and I are proposing. But I do agree with what Mr. Ellis has said, even though I voted for the high school consolidation. it's time we go in a different direction. The plan the long-range plan that we voted in at the time, had another component to it, which was consolidating the elementary and middle schools. When the commissioners returned the grant match, and would fund the grant match, which, by the way, the new school board would have likely also voted against that, but they technically did not. That was the commissioners that sent that back. But when you turn back a grant of that size, I just don't see why we would ask the state for the same amount of money to do the same thing again. It just, I think it's eventually gonna happen. Just, the timing is not right for it. So.
Okay, other discussion?
So, I mean, I know my opinions involved with it, that's fine, it's part of politics, I guess. When I campaigned pretty heavily on the opinion that, the voters should get a say in what is built. I realize essentially they did that in the election, okay, but I like options. I don't like being held to one specific thing. I'm not saying I'm against Mr. Coleman's plan, I'm not for or against either one of these three plans more than the other. I just like to have options. So at least in my mind, if we sent at least two, but preferably all three to the commissioners, and that's probably what this thing would get. So, that's just kind of.
These are three very different plans. That's my problem with that. Like, you're really.
Exactly, it gives more options.
But at some point in time, from the time that we came on the board, we've had the same options. I mean, I can remember like in the very beginning, me and you talked, and it was, you know what I'm saying, the same stuff we're saying now. So the three options we've had for 2 years. The people that we have to send this to have multiple times requested singular option. And again, it's not, as Mr. Draper said, this option is not what you're doing. This is the option that gives us the opportunity to have more conversations with the county commissioners. Because right now, their answer, at least to me, is send me a plan, not necessarily we'll talk to you about it. Send us a plan, then we'll talk.
We are the elected Board of
Which
Education.
is why I said I understand that, people think that, they did that when they elected us. But, I mean, when you're looking also spending this amount of money, I think they should have something to say.
They do, it's part of the process. So in the restitution or the resolution, it's in there, it's part of the process. So this is just the initial step of the process. Public comment still comes into play. Great, public input still comes into play. It's just in the next phase. We're stuck in phase 0 for a long time. And if we can move that, then, so I gotta get it.
No, I agree that something needs to go, I would just prefer to send it in the middle.
But just know the people that are asking for what.
I haven't actually.
Yeah, and I can only speak to my conversation.
But until we decide upon a recommendation to send them, we don't have a definitive answer from them. And so whatever recommendation we end up sending them, they're gonna have to tell us yes or no. And we may be back at the table, well, depends on what they say. I mean,
Send them all around and say, hey, we like this one the best.
why? Well, because I honestly don't even think they'll consider all of them. I don't.
Well, and to that point, Mr. Murphy, I'd say this, I get where you're coming from, but like, look how hard of a time our board's having to pick one. The commissioners, I don't think, I could be wrong, but we're having a difficult time with narrowing it down from 3 to 1. I don't think they're gonna have any easier time. That's just not.
On what you're saying, if you do propose one today and it's shot down, then of course, inevitably, well, this is another one where, if they turn down whatever plan we agreed to send out, it strictly allows you the option to say, okay, why? Okay, what would you like? Okay, anything, because right now you're just getting a hard, you move first, you make the first move. And so, but yes, you could submit whatever plan you wanted to wait for at that time.
So if that's how we want to do it, then like Mr. Matthews is saying, what if we say, all right, who wants proposal A, who wants proposal B, who wants proposal C, and which of them use those proposals?
So I think we have to make specific motions though, on what we're voting on.
And I don't know how to make this comment politically correct, so I've never been that way before. I think the issue with that is, as far as putting the like option A, option B, option C to the entirety of the constituency, I've held town halls in communities to discuss this and had zero show up. So if there was a way that every voting constituent in this county knew absolutely everything for every one of them. And because I think you have tendencies of constituents voting per their own district and things of that nature that don't pertain to any of this because it's a needs-based thing. And I think that if we, the elected officials, go through that initial process and then you say, okay, this is what we've chosen, what do you think about it? And so it's not, because I mean, I don't know how many constituents there are in the county now, but we would roughly get. I just think that is part of the next phase. We just have to get to that next phase.
Sure. But then there's that perception, well, you've already made up your mind, you're just telling us what you're going to do.
Well, I'm one of the ones sitting here and I'll say, that's not what we're doing. You know, we're just getting it to the next step where you will have options. I mean, and that's like,
And don't get me wrong, man, I wholeheartedly agree with something needs to go. I just, what we can do without it, we should all go.
But you're giving them the power to do our job.
They hold the money.
Yeah, but they're not Board of Education. Like, that's what we were elected for. That's what the people from your community and the people from my community elected us for, is to make this decision to send it to them.
And then they control the percentage, they have to say something.
But your constituents will tell you that they gave you that power to make that decision.
and the power that we've been given as this board per this one situation is to present them with an option. After that, yes, it does go to them because it takes both of our boards to sign a single piece of paper to send to DEI. So you can't do your job based on somebody else's possibility of doing their job or not doing their job. You just do yours. You do your third of it.
The proof of that is in that election I speak of. 4 people were voted in. 3 of those people were anti that plan. The entire county commissioner board was for that plan. So the people looked at that and did not want that plan, and they voted accordingly. So if you give them the power to make our decisions.
I mean, there was 2 against it until that election came about, and then it changed.
Where? The county commissioners? I know, but that was going forward with that plan, and then the people, yourself included, were elected to this board because the county commissioners board was pushing a plan that the people didn't want. So I want to give them that
I
power.
mean, in all fairness, this board was too. You had a 4-3 vote on
And,
this board.
and that election changed that for a reason, because the constituents spoke. I said, that's not what we want.
Fiction board majority changed as well. Because then you had 3 against.
What is that? That has nothing to do with the fact that they made that decision, and then the constituents of the county looked at it, it's like, that's not what we want. So they voted in people at the election, during that election of the school board that were not anti-consolidation. There's nobody up there that's anti-consolidation, but anti that one high school.
I think no matter what we do though, no matter what recommendation we vote on, no matter what recommendation we send over there, even if they do accept it, don't accept it, whatever, there's always gonna be pushback from somebody somewhere in this community because they don't like it. Always, this is age old. Like I can't recall a time where we've not, in some point in time in this county, talked about consolidation. And I don't have all the answers, I don't, but, if we're talking about trying to get to a starting point to see how we can move forward, we've got to send a recommendation somewhere to get that feedback, to know where we stand with some things. That's how I feel.
Madam Chair, I'll say this, to your point, Jason, I would say this, like, we've got a motion on the floor, and we have to vote yes or no on that plan. If we can't get one of these plans to pass, then I will say that we're probably left with no, our best option then at that point is to do what you're recommending. Is just send them all and say, we couldn't decide what y'all like. I mean, I think that murky's the water, but we won't have really any choice. Like, if we can't decide on one, then I don't know, and we're gonna either stay stagnant like we are, or we're just gonna give them all three and say, what do you think?
We got to do our job. They've asked for us to submit one. That's our job. Period.
I just need one clarification on this too. This Plan B talks about the closure of these different schools, and one that's listed as the Oaks Academy.
Where are we at? That was yeah, I think this may have been one prior to Dublin Charge, I think, or, so no, the Oak is still I don't know. I haven't seen that everything.
That's you.
Right.
Good, Sean. I didn't see it.
Okay,
I would like to know that the location is to be determined,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am.
so what does that mean?
We have options.
It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be where the school of innovation is. If we can find a piece of property nearby, and the county's willing to buy that, then we can do that.
Well, that's very important, I think.
Right,
I would like to know that before, if we vote on it, and they accept it, which is a big help. And then you can find property, or are you gonna put it back up there next to the School of Innovation?
No, ma'am. There are three very viable options for that. And I think when it comes to purchasing property, that's a closed session type thing. I can't necessarily say anything other than that they are very, very good options for that. Like I stated in our work session, economically, I mean, if you take away everything than just the dollars, the property at School of Innovation saves you the most money. However, I do understand everybody's concerned with that. So that's why I have taken the last 2 months in depth to find other options. And other than my word, I can just say that there is options there that I think would work well.
Well, I want you to know I do appreciate all the hard work you've done on this.
yes.
Yes,
Mhm. Okay, other discussion.
One more thing, Steve, I'm sorry I missed this, 2 auxiliary gyms, can you remind me what
So-
was the need for that?
if it was going to be after Schools of Innovation, which is still far a possibility, it would be, I mean, the current Schools of Innovation. It was,
Well, you would need, if it's gonna be a K-8, you're gonna need a game gym and then an auxiliary gym for the PE
so
classes.
technically it would be 2 auxiliary gyms, one for Schools of Innovation, one for elementary, for the younger kids, and then your competition with that. So technically, if it was going on that piece of property, you would have 2 auxiliary, 1 competition. If you go somewhere else, then you would cut down on 1 auxiliary gym, if you were to go somewhere else.
Well, I agree with the first part you said, Mr. Ellis, that we have to have a competition gym. I'm not so sure we need an auxiliary gym, and I'm not trying to slow the discussion down. Our current K-8s just have 1 gym. Now, the Terror, they're not regulation size.
Yeah.
But they have one gym. So I'm not gonna, like, I'll tell you, kind of like the location. I'm not gonna, like, impede this because of that, because this is a draft.
Yeah.
We're trying to move forward. But if this passes and we get down to brass tacks, I'm gonna have to be convinced that we need an auxiliary gym before I would commit to spending money on
I absolutely think you will need one. When you're talking about
It would be,
a big school, I mean, how are you gonna have PE for around 1,000 kids in one gym? And that's fine, I can be convinced of it, and we don't figure it out.
but thank you for this plan, when it was strictly based to go up
School
there.
innovation.
Your second one was for the school.
That makes sense, okay, thank you.
Everybody.
They do. Okay, that's it.
Further discussion? Okay, we're gonna roll call vote. Ms. Gaddis, we are voting on proposal B from our work session, which is Mr. Coleman's recommendation for the school for the county moving forward. So, Mr. Chapman, roll call vote,
Yes,
please.
ma'am. Mr. Tatum, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gaddis?
Ms. Gaddis, how do you vote?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Look at that, just a minute.
I'll come
he'll
back.
circle back.
Mr. Murphy?
No, for some reason.
Mr. Coleman? Mr. Ellis?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Nay.
Mrs. Raper?
Nay.
Mrs. Gaddis?
Say,
Vote is 4 against and 3 for. Motion fails.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we submit as a draft, proposal A to the commission.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor to submit proposal A, 6 to 12, as a recommendation to the commission board. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second, Mr. Tatum. Okay. Ms. Gaddis, did you hear that?
I did.
Okay, Mr. Matthews, discussion.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that I think that, plan proposal A, and, I mean, that's the one I'll lean toward, since I think, even looking at the 3 plans, or the 4 as far as the other one we have. But I just think that, for me, that proposal A makes the most sense, and it's one that's doable. And I think it's also, I mean, all of them are doable, but I think that proposal A, I think we'll be able to do that more easily, I think, than the other plan or the other proposal. And also, I think that this is a proposal, this is a plan that I do think the community, the county would embrace and would support.
Okay, Mr. Tatum, discussion.
I would just like to say that, just remind my fellow board members that this is personal, and if you prefer a different plan, just let me know, and we'll just get it figured out. And I just voted for one other than my own. I'm gonna vote for my own now, but yeah, that's it.
Fellow board members, discussion.
So I'll say, do not take it personal, agree 100%. However, just to give context, I also want to be a hypocrite. As I stated, I don't care what plan goes to them first to initiate. Do I personally agree that doing Murphy High School first, do I agree that the order of that is correct? No. Do I agree that the order of mine being first would be better? But I also have sat here and done for the last 2 years, submit a plan. So I will also be agreeing with you.
Okay. Fellow board members, discussion.
I mean, this plan, how many buildings is it leads to? That was one of my biggest problems with the last high school plans. That went from 13 to 11. So this one, honestly looks like it does the same thing.
Yes, we'll have done.
And we're moving kids into Murphy Elementary School. That's by far one of the worst schools in the county as far as facilities.
It is, but I would argue it's the second worst. So if mine passes, just say this goes through and we do this. If I'm still on the board, I'm gonna be pushing for the next grant we apply for is new Murphy Elementary, new Murphy K-8. It's just swapping the order.
No,
But
I mean, Andrews Elementary is one notch above that.
It is.
So you're talking 10 years before you do anything to Andrews Elementary with this plan? And it goes to, that doesn't go to 9. You're only getting rid of Peachtree and Marks Creek, but you're adding another one. So you just went down to 11 plus 1. So you really, after with this plan, you're at 12 buildings.
Well, you're also closing Murphy High School.
Yeah, but it's connected to Murphy Middle School, so are you gonna tear that school down? I doubt it. It's got a gym there. So are you, yeah, just because there's not kids there, you're not gonna use it? No, that's gonna be 12 buildings. This gets us nowhere close to where we can afford it. This is, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I wouldn't approve if I had a vote, using the Murphy facilities, Murphy High School facilities, if we move forward with this, other than potentially the main area, because you would still have ball games. You would still have the gym. I'm not proposing any new athletic facilities, so you would still have that, and you still would have football, so you need that space in the gym for the locker room. Other than that, I've said for years, the way you renovate Murphy High School is a bulldozer. That's how you renovate it. It's a bulldozer. So I don't know why in the world we want to use any of those buildings. I just want to be as blunt as I can be. Like, we shouldn't use those buildings now. So I'm saying, other than possibly that area where the gym is, we take it all off on it. And that would be an expense to bulldoze it and get rid of it, but maybe we don't need to do that unless.
So even if that happens, you still go to 11. 13 to 11. Because you took 3 out and you added 1.
Right. Well,
That's Andrew's math.
well, I'm just, how many was yours? And I'm not trying to argue, but just so we know. Peachtree, Marsh Creek, Murphy Middle's gone. So 4, and you're adding 1, so 3.
But I'm also not putting students back. So with your plan starting out at the high school level, you're fixing 1, whereas you could fix multiple. And in your plan, it is using facilities that we agree are not at the point where they shouldn't be used yet, but they're not far off. And still incorporating those into some form of a new plan. Whereas if it was this one first, you're second, you have fixed all the issues with new, and you're not counting on, and it cuts down. I mean, because if you go into everything, so if you combine my plan, your plan, and Jason's plan, so yes, it does consolidate those that we just talked about, but down the road, it consolidates Andrews to just middle school, high school. It does consolidate also then the middle school, high school. So now your total numbers are 7. We can afford 7, because the thing in the room that you have to always remember, which we spoke on before, this magic number 7, you can look at, West Roslyn, Yankee County. And that really is, that was a good thing to look back at when they had roughly 11, 13, and their magic number was 7. I based a lot of the 7 number off of that. We as a county, whether, if the commissioners never reapprove any brochure appropriations or tax increases for education again, you have to get to where you can self-sustain without that extra tax, whatever, because I don't know that that's going to happen. And in cutting to, it doesn't.
It might not, but it moves toward it.
Yeah, one thing I would like to say too, I think that, I think we kind of said it already, but whatever plan we move forward with, I mean, it's a draft plan, it's a beginning point. I mean, we've been discussing it for, 3 hours, even 9, and so I think it's a beginning point, whatever happens, and so I think this draft plan, I don't necessarily think the commissioners are gonna look at that, whatever plan it is, to say, oh yeah, I love that. I think they're gonna look at it just like we do, and kind of dissect it and figure out what they think might work better, for the district, so. It's a
Okay.
beginning point.
All right, so with that being said, we've heard, had a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. Mr. Howard. Okay, Ms. Gaddis, we're going to vote. This motion and second is for proposal A, which is the 612 model that was in our packet, to be considered, to be sent to the commission board for their consideration. So, Mr. Chapman, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Tatum, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Gaddis?
Nay.
Mr. Murphy?
Mr. Coleman said not to be hypocrite, no.
Mr. Coleman?
Disagree, but I know that's it.
You voted yes.
Yes. We got to send some.
Mr. Ellis?
Nay.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Draper?
Aye.
4 in favor, 3 opposed.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda. Under new business, we've had an offer for real property, and I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to reject that offer. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Matthews. All right, I have no discussion. Mr. Matthews, do you have discussion?
No.
All right, fellow board members, do you have discussion?
Does that, would that money be going to taxes?
No.
What's the tax amount?
With our expenses, we're still covered.
Okay, so, roll call vote,
I can do that.
that'd be great.
Wait, what are we,
This is to reject the current bid on the property.
Mrs. Gaddis, how do you vote?
We're rejecting, this is for a rejection bid, okay?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Murphy? Mr. Coleman? Mr. Ellis?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews? Mr. Tatum?
Aye.
Mrs. Draper?
Aye. All right, next we have a first reading of a policy, so it's extracurricular activities and student organizations, which is policy 3620. So that being since we're in the first reading, we're not going to take a vote on it, and vote on it next month. When it comes up for second reading, that brings us to the announcement of our next school board meeting, which will be a month from today, Thursday, March the 6th, beginning at 5:30 here at central office. Now that leads us to item number 12, which will be going into closed business. So I need to read some things before we go into session. Pursuant to the provisions of North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A3, and 143-318, 11C, I move that the Cherokee County Board of Education go into closed session for the following purposes. Under subsection A6, to hear complaint or grievance by or against an employee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Tatum. All in favor, say aye. All right, we're going into closed session.